Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to Ed Up on the Ed Up Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you another episode from InsightsEDU 2025 here in New Orleans, Louisiana, a conference put on by our great partners, Education Dynamics. Got a lot of energy in the place, talking about the modern learner, serving that modern learner better and more effectively, marketing to them, enrolling them, retaining them. And there's college presidents here, there's marketing professionals, enrollment professionals, student services professionals, and a record attendance, which tells me that the interest in serving the modern learner only continues to grow. And we've got another college president right in front of us to tell us all about the work that he is doing at his university. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring him to the microphone right now. Wait for it. He's Dr. Xavier Cole. He's president at Loyola University of New Orleans. Dr. Cole, welcome to an Ed Up mic.
It's great to be here.
See, you didn't even know you're getting entrance music and everything.
I did not. It was fantastic.
Oh, man. All right, that concludes this episode of the Ed Up Experience podcast. If it is, the minute I get a compliment, I stop talking. You know, Dr. Cole, tell us all about your university. Where are you located, other than the obvious, New Orleans, Louisiana? Mm-hmm. Who do you serve? How do you serve them?
Well, we're Loyola University, New Orleans, founded in 1912. We're located in Uptown, New Orleans, right next to Audubon Park, across from Audubon Park, actually on a streetcar line. We have been an anchor institution in New Orleans for all those many years. We are Jesuit, we are Catholic, and we are here to really serve the community. I love the role. I've only been president for a little less than 2 years. I'm absolutely in love with my university. I'm from Biloxi, Mississippi, so this was a coming home after being away for 30 years. And so just coming home to be able to experience the culture, the hospitality, the food, the warmth of the people in New Orleans and the South has really amplified what I can do at Loyola. Who we serve all comers. We serve anyone that is looking to be educated in a skill set, but also to be formed interpersonally in our Jesuit tradition, which means that we are intentionally creating servant leaders in the work that we do. So we specialize in, psychology and communications, and our music school is very strong. Our law school has been a beacon for this region for a very long time. We absolutely focus on teaching ethics and morals and creating situations where our students understand how to understand what is important to them in their character and their bedrock and their values, and how they stand firm with that and use that as a basis for their decisions.
Love it. You said one of the first things you said is anchor institution. What does that mean for somebody that's listening that goes, what is an anchor institution?
That means that the university and the city, the region, are basically symbiotic organisms that we need each other. One feeds off the other. We respond to one another, and one can't exist without the other. And so we see ourselves as only existing in order to serve this community and this state and this region. And we do that in the way that we know how as an educated populace.
Do you get a lot of students from out of state interested or do you serve? I'm guessing probably 65, 70% of your students from the area, but you've got a big chunk from out.
We certainly have a large chunk that's in the Gulf South, but we also recruit, because we have a great comm and music school. We get a lot of talent from the East and West Coasts as well. And so it makes us a very diverse and interesting place. So we have that local flavor in all ways that you can imagine. The people, their folk ways, but also the food. We're a little spicy.
Ooh.
Yeah. You just made the list!
Somebody out there is going, I kind of like the sound of that.
Well, it's New Orleans. Just think about all the things that you love about New Orleans, and then you actually have an education where basically New Orleans is also a learning laboratory for our students. We educate them inside of what the books say, and they have conversations about what they believe or disbelieve, and then we let them loose in the community to test some of these theories out to see how it works in the real world. And having us being in a city, I see it as our greatest learning laboratory.
It's funny because today we were on a panel together with some other college presidents, and I would say that the range of discussion was very robust, and really a number of different perspectives from college presidents, which indicates the different place from which institutions can communicate their value. You really were doubling down on this humanities and STEM and if I can find like the whole person education piece of this. Yes, there's lead generation. Yes, we have to serve students, but there is you have to write and read too. I mean, at some level, we still have to do these things that prepare us to succeed in college. Can you talk about that framework and what you see for higher education in its future?
I'm happy to talk about it. I believe that Catholic and Jesuit education has something very specific to provide, and that we can prepare the smartest and most crisp lawyers. We can, and psychologists and sociologists and musicians and all the things that we do, but we do it in a special way that we have intentional time and opportunities for interpersonal formation.
Interpersonal formation.
Amazing.
I like that.
How people think about the world, but particularly how they think about serving others. And so we students don't know exactly right away that they're being formed, but we talk to them in a language about care personalis, which means care for the whole person, being a servant leader. What does that mean? That means that you do care about the world around you, that you understand the privilege of the education that you're receiving, that a very small percentage of this world's population is getting the BA or BS degree that our students have. So what do you then do with all of that privilege? Do you keep it to yourself? Do you just gain resources for your own aggrandizement and the comfort of your family? Or do you think about how you share your gifts and talents, all of them, with your community to make that community better, stronger, and to walk with the excluded, to walk with the marginalized, to be basically a person who accompanies others in their journey because of your privilege?
Epic.
That speaks to the nobility of the job of being an educator. We've talked about that before. I think we've, in this podcast, have talked to so many college presidents from, let's just talk about the United States for a minute. We are seeing this devaluing of higher education happening. I would say that it's kind of got multiple layers. There's a devaluing of the degree itself. There's a crisp kind of focus on the ROI of a degree and it being strictly a financial calculation, right? Where if you buy this, you get this. And if you can't get this, then it doesn't have value. Well, getting this first job to prove some kind of value and not the fifth job or the 10th job dilutes that value, and it goes back to the overall value conversation. So there's multiple layers, and then there's statistics and data that says that a higher education degree has value not only in job outcomes but in lifetime health and longevity. And how do we make sense of what's happening right now? Not just from a perspective of higher education and the noble work that we do. Educators, staff, faculty, they bleed, they sweat for students every day. And then, are we telling the right story out of higher ed? And I wonder sometimes if we are.
I think that we're continuing to tell the story. I just think we need to be a little bit more explicit about it. This return on investment thing is real. Educations are expensive. People want to know that it's going to pay off and not be left in debt. Jesuit institutions and Catholic institutions have been very good about not just inviting people into our doors, but making sure that they can afford that, creating access and affordability through lots of financial aid, through institutional aid, to make sure our students don't leave feeling that, they've over-purchased or they've gotten in over their heads. There's certainly a return on investment, but not every career is going to give you a return on investment the same way, and we still need those careers. Social workers are still needed. Kindergarten teachers are still needed. Campus ministers are still needed. Folks who care for the poor in nursing homes are still needed. They may not make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but that doesn't mean that they don't have value. And so we do encourage our folks to follow their passions and their hearts. The story that we need to tell more of is the value of a liberal arts education and a well-rounded education.
There you go.
That is not just profession specific, It is something, so the reading, writing, critically thinking through history, theology, philosophy, all these things that help us ask big questions of the world humanizes us. But also, if the situations change, there have been booms and busts in real estate and construction, and you saw all these programs saying, come get a construction degree and you're going to have a career, etc. And then cost of timber went up and steel, and all of a sudden there was a drop in those professions. Then what then do you do?
And that's the question,
right?
Yeah, you cannot get it. Dr. John King from the SUNY Chancellor, SUNY New York. I heard him talk, and he was on the podcast. He was giving a keynote somewhere, and he says, "Not every student needs a 2 or 4 year degree. That's just the truth. But you need a lot of people around you that do." And it's like, yeah, that kind of hits home a lot. Like, we really do. And who are these people that are going to serve the people that need to be served for us to lift the country up? Because we can't just do nothing. We can't, and then what happens to that person that says, okay, maybe I won't go get a degree. I'm going to get these hard skills. I'm going to go get a job. And then that job is erased by AI or something else. And you go, okay, what am I going to do now? I don't have the skills to translate myself into some other industry. And I worry what that's going to do to our economy in the longer run if we don't have people who are properly trained for the next thing.
Right. If you'll indulge me for just a second, I will elaborate on
Yeah,
this.
please. You'll say it better than I did, for sure.
No. You're doing very well with this. The liberal arts skills that one is taught allows for them to be truly adaptable. Those reading, writing, critical thinking skills, problem solving, that allows for you, when that career goes away, to be able to assess the landscape, understand what your gifts and talents are, communicate those clearly in writing and orally to be able to articulate the value of what you bring. Then you are also be able to, because you can read, write, critically think, retrain for the next thing. That makes you a very valuable person, employee, but most importantly, adaptable for what's coming. We don't know what the jobs of the future are. We just know that we need to be adaptable, and we know that technology will be a part of it. So we are, in many ways, training our students to be almost chameleons.
Future ready.
Yeah, future ready. That's a great way to put it. And we need this type of flexibility in our learners. But I'll also want to say that, this piece around moral education, ethics, values, decisions, that also training people at the same time to think about the ethics of the work that they do. Do they do any harm to other persons? Right. That's also something that we teach at a Catholic Jesuit school that is baked into the cake. Yep. And students, where they're eating that, and we're testing this in them, and the questions that we ask them and the situations that we put them in to do service while they're with us on campus for their 4 years or more, to put them in situations in the city that they choose and not that they're forced to do. We show them the landscape of what the need is for, say, poverty in our city. We have them ask questions about why does that poverty exist and what can you do to alleviate it. And then we let them loose to then walk in solidarity with the people who are experiencing this poverty, to understand, but most of all, to have empathy.
Yeah. Empathy is something that's missing sometimes from our society these days as we talk. I can dig that, let me tell you. And I got to ask the crowd.
Can you dig it?
Yes,
you know where that's from. You know what movie that's from? Can you dig it? It's from The Warriors, an old movie from the 70s where they're these, it was old New York City gangs anyway. They were trying to get from I don't know, New York City to Coney Island. It's a classic, but one of my favorites. But I, as we look forward, we're talking about the modern learner, serving the modern learner. Characteristics are changing. Institutions have to change along with the learner, right? We can't get caught behind. We also have to maintain our mission. And I know from talking to many Jesuit and Catholic schools, there's been a resurgence in students looking for meaning in their higher education journey. And that meaning is about something to apply this education to, some good I want to do in the world, some outcome I see myself changing society for the better. Is that what you've seen at Loyola, and is this happening in the New Orleans area.
Well, we absolutely see that. Our students are very engaged. Technology allows for them to be aware of most of the injustice that happens in this world. And then they ask, what is my role? We challenge them to be men and women for others and persons for others. And so they take us up on that challenge. And so they then think about, what can I do? What should I do? I care because I know. And awareness is the first part. Part of their awareness is from books. Other parts of awareness is from their experience. But technology allows for our students to be much more aware and their world much more deeply expanded as far as their awareness of what's happening in the world. And so instead of a helplessness, we encourage them to do what they can do. What are your gifts? What are your talents? What can you share? What can you affect? And as my uncle used to tell me when I was growing up, you really need to start in your own backyard. So
is that true?
At Loyola, that is in New Orleans, that is in Louisiana, and then we can go from there. But you need to really understand your local context to really affect a wider and global context.
All right, so let's turn this to a question of a more personal nature here for you. We'll call it professional/personal. You were college president for 2 years here at Loyola. Mm-hmm. What's one thing that surprised the heck out of you about this presidency? And maybe one thing that you went, you know what, that's exactly what I thought it would be. And you can take them in either order you'd like.
Sure. What surprised me is how quickly I would fall in love with the work that is so complicated, so broad. And why? It's because when you interact with those young people in their process of formation and they're curious and they're excited and you can see them growing exponentially in front of you intellectually and interpersonally, as a president and an administrator in higher ed, that your work has true meaning. And then I go out from the walls of my institution and go find the same students as alumni and graduates in the world, making a difference, doing well. I probably had nothing to do with some of their journeys at Loyola, but I have, we're connected through this longer durée. And being extremely proud of how that education is played out and the decisions that they make and the things that they care about. It makes you extremely proud. And so the thing that I was really surprised about, I've been to graduations for 30 years running. Never miss one, sometimes twice a year. It's you robe up, you shake hands.
I like that.
You watch this happen, and it's just the culmination, the commencement of this experience. But as a president of a university, standing up at that podium, looking out over a complete sea of joy that you are responsible for, all of it, and you see the transformational impact of this education on that individual who may be first generation and their families, where, this kid may be the first one that has an opportunity to move into the middle class or beyond, that's when you're overwhelmed. And I was overwhelmed by it. It took me off guard. This thing that happened every year, twice a year. All
just
of a sudden,
the different perspective.
This perspective from my particular panoptic view, understanding what goes into that graduation. Yeah. It was a very different and personal experience, and it gave me a great amount of joy.
Wow, that's really cool to hear. And I like the way you're talking about your presidency. You're very passionate and positive and hopeful. And I would tell you the number of people looking to be college presidents has declined over the years. There's been a lot of eyes on college presidents, not just from stakeholders, but from the feds, from the government, from special interest groups. There's just a lot of pressure, both internally and externally. How do you maintain your positive energy?
The students that you serve. I've always said to my community members, whether it be faculty, staff, students, alumni, parents, it doesn't really matter. We may disagree on multiple things, but we can all agree that this young person's education matters. And that's what we could focus on. So whatever our petty disagreements may be, let's just focus on why we're here. Yep. And all of us, whether faculty in the classroom or support staff outside, down to the janitor who is cleaning up the campus to make sure it's an environment that's conducive for learning. We all care about that student. And that's the beauty of being at a college university our size and our scope, that our students can be known and they can be loved, and they feel that, and that is a thing that buoys them through a very difficult education nowadays. And when it gets hard for them, they know that they have support. And so that's for me the thing. Just focus on why we're here. That's the unit of measure. That's students' growth and development. And when we're all focused on that, we tend to do a lot of good things.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Well, there you have it, everybody. An amazing episode of the EdUp Experience podcast here at InsightsEDU 2025 in New Orleans, Louisiana, with an amazing president. He's on a panel with me earlier. He had a lot of great things to say, and we're going to be following the journey, my friend, and I'm sure we're going to stay in touch. And, of course, if you want to learn more about the modern learner, you got to check out what Education Dynamics is doing for colleges and universities across the U.S. But let me outro him in the appropriate way, ladies and gentlemen. He's Dr. Xavier Cole, and he is the president at Loyola University of New Orleans. Ladies and gentlemen, you just EdUp'd. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you in another episode here at InsightsEDU, a conference put on by Education Dynamics, all about recruiting, serving the modern learner. And we're here on the mic today, co-founder of the EdUp Experience podcast, the one and only Elvin Freitas. Elvin, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing? You know, this is special because I'm almost never on the mic. So our guest, he should realize how special he is.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
I feel special.
That is a fact. He also is very special. I just was on a panel with this guest who's
Awesome
actually been
panel.
on this podcast 3 times before, but he is so loud and obnoxious. We have to bring him back every time we see him. No, he's not. He's very informative. I consider him to be a friend and a trail, and you do too. Trailblazing president in higher education today. Really delivering the message that I think we need to hear, that not everybody is willing to say. Somehow he says it every day and moves on to the next day. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring him in right now. He's Dr. Malik Peter Khoury. He is the president at Unity Environmental University. Welcome back, Malik. How are you?
Fine, thank you, and thanks you for having me.
That is the most polite thing you've said to me all day, in fact.
Probably the
now that we hit record, all of a sudden you get way more polite. No,
I know, right?
Joe, can I jump in?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been waiting for you to ask you this question. Because you know what? You've been on quite a few, and I've listened to you and your LinkedIn. Tell us something, tell the crowd that we don't know about either you or Unity. Something you haven't mentioned before anywhere else.
Ooh.
Give it
Tell
to
them like it is.
Yeah, there you go. Come on, give us something interesting. Maybe something that's going to happen in the future. Maybe some great insight. You know what? I've never really shared that with anybody anywhere, because I know you're on a lot of podcasts and I know you do a lot of things, but I want to hear something different.
You didn't even prepare him for this, too.
I love it.
No, and that's probably the most difficult question you'll ask me, because in order for me to survive and thrive as a president in an organization and an institution that really brokers in like exclusivity, I've had to live out loud. So actually, that is the toughest question you could ask me, because I say everything that I'm thinking.
Wow.
I try to be as transparent as possible about everything. So it's difficult for me to actually have a secret, because that's really what brings people down. And so if I say what I'm thinking, what I'm trying to do. So I think the thing that I would say to you as my response is, I don't have any secrets, which is why I've now the second longest serving president in the state of Maine.
Wow.
And a lot of people lost on that bingo card.
Is this what you'd like to say to everybody?
You have to kill me to be finished with me.
Oh, I love Al Pacino.
That's good stuff. No, I think he looks into the mirror and asks that one question, Joe. I think that's what he does.
Yeah, we'll get to that one later.
I think he does that in a month. So, all right. So is this something that you strategically focused on? Or is this your personality? This is how you are? Talk to us about that.
It evolved over time. I mean, in higher education, there is something that I affectionately call, because I'm a Star Trek fan, called the Kobayashi Maru, right?
Ooh,
the gauntlet of impossibility. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. So as a president, if I walk in and I have an idea, I am attacked for not having it fully baked and all the information and all the answers aren't there.
Yikes!
But if I fully bake it and then I bring it to people, that it's like, you didn't include us. Where was the process?
So
Where was the inclusion?
Yeah.
Which makes it the perfect position for you to say nothing, be nothing, do nothing, and be loved by everyone.
Yeah. Wow.
So in trying to figure out is how do you transform a tuition-driven institution that had gotten under 500 students at one point, looking down the barrel of financial viability, I had a decision to make. And as most of my detractors really focused on what information that they had on you that had nothing to do with your job, that was designed to make sure that they put you in your place. Like within the first 3 months of being president, a group of people went to like 2 of my previous campuses digging up dirt.
Yeah.
And came back and were really upset that the dirt wasn't really that dirty.
That's a good one.
It dawned on me.
Yeah.
My actual best weapon is to say what I'm thinking, be transparent, be honest, use the power that I have been given not to hide any information that I have, unless it's, legal or protecting people and the like. And that's been kind of my approach is I say what I'm thinking. I have the right to change my mind. I try to do no harm and let people use their own insecurity, their own manipulation to think through the worst things that I would never think about, which is why I sleep well at night while I should be mailing them W-2s.
Getting back to the Star Trek reference here.
I will not have you telling me what course to set.
I can do it, Captain.
Yeah.
Well done. Okay, so how did you create that tough skin? Because when you do what you just said, you're going to create detractors. You're going to create people who are not happy with you. You're going to have some really tough skin to be in a position where you are and do what you're doing, which I envy, and I'm sure a lot of people who follow your work do. So how do you do that? How do you sleep well at night? I mean, that's amazing.
Well, I mean, to be fair, to say that it doesn't affect you, I think
okay.
that's...
You're human.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the...
Surprise.
I know. I think that's what everyone is counting on. Everyone is counting on where there is smoke, there is fire, to the point that all they have to do is say the meanest things that they're thinking, and you will wither. Or there will be some... outcry. I call it selective outrage based on, I learned it from Chris Rock. I think for me, it was an evolution as the escalation around disinformation around me grew. Luckily, I had a board. They brought in a team of crisis managers to basically they wanted to know wow, is this guy truly the reincarnation of Pol Pot, or is there something here? So what I had to kind of, what's the best way to put it, come to terms with is that unless I am guilty, unless I'm actually hiding something, having people treat me like they did in that show, The Crucible, where all you have to do is whisper the unthinkable and somehow I am guilty of it, was something that I had to do. So I had to almost learn from, I had a lot of colleagues in the Department of Human Services that I went to college with who worked with a lot of people in trauma, with a lot of people who were overcoming. And I learned some of the ideas that you have to take back your identity from people who are trying to destroy it. And only if you are guilty should you not, should you be worried about talking about it. So when somebody would say something mean about me that was completely untrue, instead of trying to defend it, I pulled the Cyrano de Bergerac. You're never going to be able to insult me better than I insult myself. Let me tell you how bad you should have gone.
I like your plan, except it sucks. So let me do the plan, and that way it might be really good.
Good one.
What do you is there still shock value? I mean, because you're a very outspoken president, the way you write, and I meant what I said at the beginning. You're saying some of the things that the industry needs to hear that we're afraid to say transparently. And you do that. And is your university personnel, staff, faculty used to you now? Or is there a moment still where it's like, oh gosh, we're having trouble getting on board with this aggressive vision? We're still not used to this? Or, I mean, because you've been there for a long time. It's not like, can you surprise them further?
Well, yes. But to be fair, the harshest critics that I have and the biggest supporters actually say the same thing. A lot of the people, especially when I hire new people, they are so used to working in industry that what is said versus what is meant do not align. That it takes them a long time to realize I say what I mean, and so can they. And so what I get is a little level of, I'm just glad that we can have an honest conversation instead of a pre-prescribed one about what did he mean, what did he say, why is that word
You know
choice?
what? I got to interrupt you because I was talking to a president, I don't know how many weeks ago, who was saying that the secret to being successful in higher ed is playing the political game, that you have to be good at the conversation before the conversation or the conversation in the hallway. And I was like, man, that's just tough to imagine having to do that 24/7 to be successful. I don't know if that's sustainable. I think you have to just come out and say what you mean, or else it's too hard. There's too many people, there's too many side conversations, and too many opportunities for people to just kind of take away meaning for something that's not true, right?
Yeah, the meeting before the meeting, the meeting after the meeting, what is really, really said. I think, I don't know who that president is, but to be fair, if he or she or they work at an organization where they're trying to protect a significant endowment, right? I can see where you want to create as much bureaucracy and as much process as possible to keep your hedge fund. But if you're truly a tuition-driven institution, if you're truly trying to adapt to the modern learner, if you're truly trying to provide access, one of the things that I think people struggle with me is there is a dichotomy in education. There are those who are looking for the pre-1965 approach to education, exclusivity and elitism. Nothing wrong with that. And then there are those of us who are trying to provide access to everyone. Those two realities cannot exist. And I think too many people try to combine the two instead of just saying, which one are you? And the process will be different.
You fascinate me as a human being. You really do. And you talked about learning earlier. How do you learn? What are you reading? What are you listening to? How do you get such amazing, great insights and know so much of so many different things? Like, talk us through about that.
Well, this is going to sound very morbid, but it is very important to read and hear and listen to things that you don't agree with and you think are out there.
Oh.
Right? Too many of us get comfortable in our own philosophy, in our own echo chamber, in our own. And so for me, if I believe I can understand the deepest, darkest, extreme position that is against everything that I'm trying to do, then I can figure out a way to then calculate the probability of that happening and then try to determine how to meet there. So for me, I don't only read, like sometimes I hear people in academia talk and they all want to one-up each other about the book that they read.
Totally. Oh my God,
right?
yes.
So
yes.
I'm going to share a story with you.
Please do.
I do an exercise with my team. I do a lot of scenario planning because I think the first time something happens on my campus, I don't want it to be the first time they're dealing with real stuff. And so one of the things that I did is I asked them to kind of come up with who their superhero is and why and how that reflects their personality. So I give them, on purpose, 2 weeks to come up with this. And the reason I did that is because I kind of guessed that they are going to be spending so much time and agonizing so much as to what is the superhero that's going to make them come out the best, or whether it's
totally right.
what I want or their peers. That when I actually got to the room, I said, I'm not going to ask you to repeat it. Now, I want you to think about these 3 questions. Did you choose it because you truly believe it?
Yes.
Did you do it? And that's been the approach. We spend too much time keeping up appearances when, 50% of our student population can't graduate.
Mic drop.
Yeah, no, it's so good. It's actually like that exercise would be interesting if you had to go pick the superhero, have the characteristics, write out or whatever why you have the similarities, but not bring the superhero name back.
Yeah.
Right, and you have to describe that. So it would be interesting to do that. But you talk about learning. Learning has never been more important. We are seeing the value of higher education be questioned. You know this. You're at the front end of talking about this. And we're just on stage talking about the modern learner, serving them, and what the challenges are to serving a modern learner and how we do this better. I think just, I don't know if you remember your answer, but it was a good one. And if you could kind of unearth that again for us. What do we need to be in front of right now as we see the student evolve?
I mean, ironically, nothing has changed since Tinto in the mid-90s said that most people fail out of college not because they're not academically ready, but because of all the social factors that affect their lives, right? No more. At no time has that been more true. If you actually look at the student plight right now, most of the reasons why they can't go to school, they can't stay in school, and they can't be successful in school actually doesn't have a lot to do with their academic readiness.
100%.
Yet we took something that we consider is sacred. I say this all the time. It's becoming a little old, but I will keep saying it until I feel like the world heard it. It worked great in Greece. It worked even better when it was transported and militarized in Italy. It was great pre-1965 when it only applied to the elite. But the problem is today's learner needs a level of attention for a product that no longer works for them. I have taken a position at Unity that we are going to be location and modality agnostic, which means that the idea that there is one true pedagogy and everything else we do is secondary is part of the problem. We need a team focused on remote learners. We need a team focused on residential learners. And each and every one of those has to have the freedom to focus on that population with different services the like. And then I've taken a more stronger position recently and said that most of us in college, running colleges, we've become mayors. We are running a town.
Yeah. That's true.
And so I'm trying to experiment with this idea. Why not just go to a town that needs learning and say we can deploy in-person, remote, using your own local economy. Use your local gym. Use your local soccer team. Use your local support system. Keep your job. How about we reverse the brain drain and go to where people are, teach them there, which technology can let us do, in-person, online, remote. And for those who are looking for the American Rumspringa, you can go to a campus too. And it shouldn't be one is better than the other.
It's an interesting concept, actually. I think about that. Like, remote camp, I think, if you look back in the University of Phoenix days, they set up all those remote campuses. That was kind of the idea, but it became campuses. It became place again. Well, how do you go into a place, to a physical location where there are a lot of people and deploy the learning there in where they are? I think that's interesting. And I think we're going to see more of that. I really do. I think it's going to become very common.
I'm seeing it now. But unfortunately, a lot of these major corporations are basically saying, we are going to abandon waiting for them to get a degree. We're just going to create our own educational arms. Right, which is actually costing them their bottom line more than it should when they could partner with colleges. But we as colleges have to really deconstruct what is learning versus what is a resort experience.
That's right.
You seem like you love your job. I mean, I just get this vibe from you, like you love everything that you do about it. But I really want to know, what is it that you don't like about your job? Come on, you got this.
Area of improvement.
Yeah.
Area of improvement.
Well, no, come on. Let's just be honest. Forget that. That's higher ed talk. I want to know what you don't like about
Don't call me out on this
podcast. I don't like the fact that people in academia will lie to my face when there is a crowd or when there are witnesses, and then when everyone is gone, tell me they agree with me. Be brave.
Good one.
Be strong enough to say what you think, and not wait until you get that consulting gig before you tell me about all of the wars on your campus.
That is so
if we can break through that lie, right?
Yeah, it's so
if
true.
we can say, look, I was blood, and it's real. We ask our students to be authentic. We ask our students to be resilient. Yeah, exactly. We ask our students that they need to learn how to think, not what to think. Yet we walk around like Manchurian candidates, afraid to say the wrong thing because somebody might do a vote of no confidence.
Yeah, we're in a veil. It's like a shrouded veil all the time to say that this is who I am when I'm at work, and then I can be myself later. You can't do that. Authenticity needs to. There's too much social media, too many people looking. If you're not authentic, people smell that from a mile away, and they are not going to buy into you.
No, I love that. And what's up with all these movie references and these shows? I mean, I'm so impressed.
Well, the problem with academia is we spend so much. I remember my first graduation speech. Right?
It's 47 years ago.
1910.
Amazing.
A lot of people were whispering to my chief of staff, who really wrote his speech? Does he have you have no idea. When you look like me and talk like me, no one can believe. So I stood up there and I had this speech that it would look like it was written for just the most blah human being out there. And I literally said no. And my first quote was, "Free your mind and the rest will follow." Right? And I had I had so much feedback from students. Here's what I realized. If we are going to bring down the veil of academia so that people stop not people can continue to believe in learning.
Yeah.
We have to use references. We have to use language where the person who isn't as educated or as lucky as you can understand, and stop saying that my client is not smart enough to understand Noam Chomsky and Albert Einstein. There's a place for that, right? But when I quote Iron Man, when I quote Tupac, people can hear me differently.
That's true.
And metaphors are powerful.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, everybody. I would say that Dr. Melik Peter Khoury is at the front of leading in higher education. He's honest. He's transparent. That's for sure. He'll tell you like it is. And that's why we continue to have him back on the EdUp Experience podcast year over year, because it's never dull. Never a dull moment with this. Ladies and gentlemen.
Free your mind.
He's Dr. Melik Peter Khoury. He is the president of Unity Environmental University. Check him out, unity.edu. Melik, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You're awesome, man.
You've just EdUp'd. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode here at InsightsEDU, a conference put on by Education Dynamics, all about marketing and enrollment to the modern learner. With me by my side, as usual, partner, co-founder of the EdUp Experience podcast. This time he's on the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, Elvin Freitas.
Joseph Salustio. Again, special. Only I come out with the special, folks. So the guests, you're special. I usually don't do this. So.
Oh, boy. He's a special something.
That's what everybody said. Uh-oh, if Elvin's on the mic, something's wrong.
Let's get our guest on right now.
Funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, here he is. He's Brent Fitch. He's the president at Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design. Shake it off, Brent. What's happening? How are you?
Shake it up. That's a great song for New Orleans. Absolutely.
Yeah. What's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, doing great. Yeah, just loving the conference, getting a lot of information, and catching up with some old colleagues.
You know, before I ask any questions, I'm going to hand it over to Elvin, because he's very infrequently on the microphone, and he does ask a lot of very thought-provoking questions.
I do.
And so he's like locked and loaded. I'm feeling this energy come off him.
Okay. Now, every time I've seen you, luckily I've seen you more than once, and you,
unluckily for me,
you
again?
Good one, good one. Listen, Brett, you have style, you really do, and I think that says something about you.
Surprise!
Oh man, Joe's on it now. He's good. So explain because we can't see it. Explain to listeners your style of what you wear, your clothing. What does it say about you as a person? And it's also teaching, like, why do you do? You could choose to wear, whatever you want, really, but there's got to be a reason why. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so my wife dresses me. That's pretty much it. That's what happens. And I'm like, and I say, well, I'm president of Art and Design College, and we do have fashion design. And she's like, yeah, but you are not fashionable whatsoever.
Yikes. So if she, what would you wear? What would you wear if she?
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I thought you were serious.
No.
Good one.
Yeah,
it's such a good poker face. He's such a good poker face. I love that.
Yeah, it's I think it's a little rooted in New Orleans, quite honestly.
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, you were
New Orleans
here.
has a unique style of its own, and as hopefully y'all experience by being here and being from New Orleans. You kind of have to dress the part all the time, and it's always fun and festive, right? So that's what I kind of think about. So thank you for the compliment.
Yeah. And do the students compliment? Do they say something to staff, faculty when they see you? Is that like a part of the conversation? I'm just curious.
Are you kidding me?
Thank you, Joe.
That's what they say about the jacket.
You have to blend in and you have to be real. Quite honestly, and
authenticity.
And our campus is so unique and very traditional, and we have all kind of students, very diverse background, from interior design students who, have a unique style of their own, and then we have animators. So it's really just we allow people to be themselves in a community that accepts them.
You were talking. We did a panel together recently here at Education Dynamics InsightsEDU. And I heard you say that RMCAD has increased its size by 50% in the last 4 years. Did I get that right?
Since 2019, increased 50%.
That's insane. I mean, in this
for
time.
Art and Design School, I feel privileged and honored during, and then really.
When did you start?
2020.
Okay, so
Yeah.
2019 kind of starts, and then you grab it and you just smash it, right? Like, how does that look? What did you do? How did this happen?
Well, we've always maintained a decent size population at our campus, and I think using what we do on campus to promote online has been kind of a philosophy of ours. And then the last few years, we really got to promote some content, to try to position ourselves as a subject matter expert, writing blogs. But most of the work has happened, I believe, because just trying to do the simple things correct and try to meet students where they are. You know, we took and we said, you know, every course needs to be offered online because students need convenience, and every course on campus needs to be the same price as the ones online. That needs to be easy to
100%.
transition from one to the other. And, you know, it matters to students.
Also, like it simplifies the internal operations, right? You know how much and you know this, like when your online is one price, your on ground's another price, same program. Your financial aid packaging has to change. Just all of the bits and pieces, the timing, it makes it super complicated. And when the price is the same, you can wrap the services at one level.
Yeah, and we go one step further. And I just want to point out, and I think it's important, that when you start with us, you have a tuition rate. It doesn't change until you graduate.
It's locked tuition rate.
Locked tuition. So
very uncommon these days.
Very uncommon.
Used to be more common, you know,
Yeah.
and then it went uncommon, and now it's rare.
Yeah, and then actually this year we felt it was important to just keep tuition flat. So we didn't increase it to this year plus last year. They'll be on the same rate, and I think that's important because we don't want students to have to worry more about something else than they do about school.
It's true, though. I mean, you have to, you know, if you can understand, it's like anything we buy. If you understand the cost, you can budget appropriately.
Right.
If it's unplanned cost, and for us in higher ed at the administration level, inflation, utilities, those are you budget for them, and sometimes it's an unplanned increase, and you go, oh crap, we need to do more. We got to cut this. We got to move that.
Yeah.
If you're a student, that unplanned increase can mean the difference between continuation or not.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, you know, we don't want to be in the summer and say turn the air conditioning down.
Right.
I
have been there recently in an institution. We're going to put it at 74 degrees was the message. And it was like, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's and it gets back to really just listening to them. You know, students will tell you exactly what you're doing right, and they will tell you exactly what you're doing wrong.
More often.
And and today it's really, I love the fact that you can you can optimize student feedback using AI and see trends a lot quicker than you could by analyzing. You know, when we have an annual student survey, we might get back 500, 600 responses. Each are all unique. So how can we really try to see what trends are in the comments? Our scores have been good and been improving, but the comments are the ones you take action on. How do you summarize those?
Those comments are beautiful and ugly and all the things, right?
Everything you possibly want as a president of an institution. You see it. And if you don't see it there, just go into the cafe and talk to a student. You'll see it there.
For sure.
You know, I had a question because we're at a marketing and enrollment conference. And so,
let's go.
So tell us about your hiring process for that, probably one of the most pivotal, I think, chief of marketing or whatever it is that you title that person. What are you looking for? What are you not looking for? What's that process to make sure you hire the right person?
Yeah, great question.
Sometimes, Joe. Sometimes.
Very impressed. And I did hear you rap actually on the last song, so that's pretty impressive as well.
2 in a row, dude. 2 in a row.
Yeah, but I think hiring the right person starts with making sure that your employment brand is what you want it to be.
What does that mean?
Meaning,
I don't know.
so we use LinkedIn a lot to whether it's show what students are doing, show what our faculty are doing, show what our team is doing. I believe that creates your brand of employment. And then nowadays with hybrid remote work, we have employees in states in 7 states actually as we look at it, which helps you kind of look for talent. And then once the talent gets in front of you, I think it's three things. The three things that I look for. One, that they're super smart and they understand their area.
Yeah.
Right. Two is that they can put others first. At the same time, they will outwork anyone.
Nailed it.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, that's the basics, right? That's it. That's, to me, what makes a great team. And if you have a group of people who meet those, the president's job gets a whole lot easier because you're not the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, what about specifically with marketing and enrollment? Is there something you're looking at? Is there a specific question you're asking them about their knowledge and expertise?
Yeah, I mean, I think the skill set for a marketing and enrollment person has changed over time.
Yes.
They have to have a great network.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah,
I like that a lot.
I like that's a good one.
You just made the list.
Yeah, they have to listen to all 52 different versions of the EdUp podcast. That's a requirement.
You just made the list.
24. Nobody's counted.
24. Congratulations. 24, really?
Yeah, it's crazy,
Wow,
isn't
that's
it?
incredible. That's awesome.
Ought to be
That
more.
guy's built. Yeah, building the kingdom. And then I think, the other piece is having an understanding how to work with partners. That's really key.
Internal and
we
external.
have a ton
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Both internal and external. That's a great point because you rely on. We always talk about the associate director of your area. It's everyone.
Yeah.
I like that.
Whether it's HR or whether it's marketing or whether it's admissions, right? So you have to manage the program, manage the cross-functional relationship. And then for us, we have a lot of partners, particularly on the marketing and admission side. So truly, we have to sit down with them because they're an extension of us. And the person that manages the partnership best is usually the person we hire because they understand how to get the most out of it because it truly is a partnership.
Yeah.
It's a give and take. You all know you've been there too. You both of you are great partners, right? You know your skill sets are. How do you rely on those, and then how do you ultimately build up to 24 and next year 50 different
Well, I will tell you one thing, and that's that, seldom does Elvin get on the mic, but when he does, he asks a couple of fairly good questions, and then he looks in the mirror every day and says this.
I am the smartest man alive.
All the time.
So he gets a big head.
My wife and girls, they know it.
And he can rap.
Apparently so. Apparently so.
It's a very skill set.
What's going on for the future of RMCAD? What do you do next? Do you go to grow another 50%? I mean, do you I mean, this is the hard question in higher ed. Is do you top out? Do you plateau? Do you keep striving? Do you go to 10,000, 15,000, 50,000?
And
or
what does
is
the
it
board want? What does the board want?
What does that look like?
For us, it's explained in two words: managed growth. You can't. To me, it's a consistent managed growth that helps extend your brand. Doesn't get you off track from your mission. Certainly doesn't get you off track from your vision of what the institution could be. But you start to bolt on things that matter, where your brand helps that area in more ways than you could possibly think of. So, trying to. I always talk about you have to lose yourself sometimes in thought to create a positive momentum, chasing excellence. Right. So when we start looking at programs, and we're doing this year, we've had 12 Bachelor of Fine Arts programs for a while. We've grown them over the last 5 years. When we start looking at new programs, it's leveling up or leveling down, depending on where the market is and
what skills are needed, or
what skills are needed. And my new provost was a former chief learning officer for Straight Align. So now we're starting to look at credentialing.
Amy Smith?
Amy Smith.
Yeah.
Nice.
We had Amy Smith on the EdUp Experience podcast,
yes,
did
we
we
did.
not?
Yeah. Dr. Smith
Dr. Amy Smith?
Yeah, she's been with us for a bit. And
kind of a good pickup. Well done, sir.
Yes. Well, we are learning, as she describes it, across the spectrum, right? As we start to look, because she has a fresh eye of looking at it. What does good school look like? And the good school today is different than the good school that was yesterday.
Yeah.
So what does good school look like when you think about credentialing, when you think about offerings? You can take a degree program, a Bachelor of Fine Arts, same content. You can. We are going through the approval process right now to offer some of those disciplines into a really just a kind of a package interdisciplinary degree, where you're having a certification at the end in an area, or you can just pick up a bunch of certifications in the areas that we actually have BFAs in. Different offering, same classes, different structure, depending on what students need. And then we can take those certificates and put them on the beginning end where students don't need to necessarily take all of the other courses, and they would have some credentials to go to the marketplace. Again, you're using your inventory wisely. Right?
Yep.
Inventory of class.
Repurposing your current inventory is easier than going out and trying to get a bunch of new programs because the innovation exists. It's expensive.
Yeah.
You got to get approval. It takes time. The higher ed programs are to get approval for them aren't quick.
No.
I mean, it does take time to build them and get approval. So you can take your existing curriculum and refashion it and get something else out of it. That's an important way to do it.
Yeah, and if you market the institution as a brand, your offerings can be different. But your brand speaks for yourself, and if you have built a great brand, people are going to start wanting parts of the brand, not necessarily how you package it today. Because I mean, you think about what we do; it's a high volume type of conversion. Nobody's converting students who are interested to starting class at 50%.
No.
So what are you doing with the other 90%? Or 90, like 95. You know what I mean? There's a lot of offerings that you're just not meeting somebody where they want to be.
Yep.
How can you figure that out? Because they're interested in your brand, because your brand attracts them. What you do once they're attracted in the engagement process.
You got to have it.
You got to have it. And if you don't have enough, you're not engaging enough, and you can't manage growth like you should.
You know, speaking of managing, one of the things that always fascinates me is the cabinet. Do you have a cabinet? Do you have how does it work? And what's your leadership style to bring them together? There's something that you can say. You know, one of the things. Is that what you do? You wake up every morning and you just get, let's go. What is it that you do to bring them together so they work together and there's an atmosphere of, you know, I can say what's on my mind and not worried about being I don't know, excommunicated or whatever it is. How do you do that? Talk us through.
It's so I look at it. I'm just surrounded by a lot of smart people who care. Both on the executive team and the board level, right? So my board is very in tune to what we're doing. Give us suggestions, help us understand how to remove roadblocks and what we have done in the past and learn from that. And then the executive team is in with the board, and we have great discussions. We obviously talk about our ideas. The executive team and I, every year we evaluate kind of the entire student journey life cycle. We identified in 9 stages, right? From engagement, awareness, consideration, commitment.
Oh, I like that.
Right? And then there's 3 in the classroom, and then it goes to career services and alumni. Every one of those 9 have a vision.
Wow.
We write it out.
That's very good.
We discuss it. And then we put KPIs against it, and then we measure our progress at each stage based on how students progress. And if we see opportunities, that hits the board, and where it hits the board is in either an executive priority list. We have 10 for 2025, or some of them drop down to a department list, and then we talk about it in the semesterly review process. So we're constantly working backwards, understanding the 9 stages, meaning the initiative should be driving progress of students in each of those stages. And if it's not, then we measure it, hold people accountable, and then we talk about it and see what happened. Resource-wise, if that's a roadblock, if we didn't quite get the solution correct, we re-engage, we redo, and it's a constant state of chasing excellence. That's the best way to describe it.
Well, we're going to leave it there because the question I would ask to the listeners out there is, do you have your student journey mapped out to a certain number of stages, and do you have KPIs against those stages? That is a very, I'd like to say it should be commonplace, but it is a very advanced stage compared to many of the universities that I come across, see, consult with, and so on. But it's something to strive toward. If you're not at that level of granularity, then you don't really know efficiency from inefficiency, and that's a tough place to be when we're trying to turn enrollment around or continue growth.
Yeah, you're flying the plane in fog without any instruments.
Right.
If you don't have the instruments or a flight path or a pattern, right, you just don't know where you're going. In order to measure that, you need some help, right? And those instruments are going to help you, and you have co-pilots too.
Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Another exciting episode with a well-dressed man who is leading an institution that has experienced 50% growth over the last 5 call it 5.5 years. That is an incredible number. I would keep an eye on what they're doing because there aren't many universities out there, colleges growing at that rate. So they're doing something right. He's Brent Fitch. He's the president of Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design, and you've just ed upped.